Welcome to In the Seams, a podcast by Broken and Mended. And now your host, David Heflin.
Well, welcome back to In the Seams. I'm recording a short intro to my conversation today with Mandy Farmer, and hope you'll listen to that interview. Mandy's had a very difficult experience with her chronic pain, chronic illness, and fibromyalgia, and other various difficulties with her health, and then compounded by the loss of her husband about a year and a half ago. And out of that, though, she has continued to write, to make a difference in other people's lives. She has a new book that's come out. You'll hear all about that on the podcast. And so I just had a couple of announcements, though, that I wanted to share before we get into that interview that I think that you will find interesting. First of all, we had a conference last year for a virtual conference for Broken and Mended, and we had 276 people registered. It was a wonderful first event. Our second annual conference is going to be on October 10th, and I don't have the name of the theme and all that I can share with you just yet, but I can tell you the date, as I said, October 10th. And I can tell you that the main speakers will be Sarah Walton, Amber Ginter, and Nate Brooks. Each of them brings something different. Sarah Walton is a well-known writer in the chronic illness community, not only about her own chronic illness struggles, but also those of her kids. And Amber Ginter is a well-known person for mental health, especially amongst Gen Z, young adults, and so forth, and has also dealt with chronic pain and illness. She has been on our podcast before. We haven't had Sarah on our podcast, but we may try that sometime. And Nate Brooks, who's been on our podcast also, who is a counselor and a professor and is someone who has written a book for people who are struggling as caregivers of people with chronic illness and chronic pain. So it really allows us to have a lot of different perspectives represented in just those three speakers, and I think will help us to reach even more people with that conference. The other thing I want to tell you is my new book is out. It's called Purpose in Pain, Rediscovering God's Purpose Through the Pain of Chronic Illness. And it has been published by Stock. Wherever, if you just Google Purpose in Pain, David Heflin, you will be able to find it wherever you like to get it. I know a lot of people, maybe most people, go to Amazon, but it is available too. Walmart, Barnes & Noble, and all those kinds of places. But I wanted you to know about it because we've talked about it before on the show that it was coming. It's finally here. And so we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And just, this is great for people who are in the trenches of chronic illness, who have lost a lot. They know they've lost a lot. They're trying to figure out how they're going to move forward with their lives. And this book is meant to meet you where you are and to help you acknowledge what is lost and be able to step forward into the present and the future that God is still giving you. And so certainly hope that you will check that out. It's also good if you just need somebody in your family to understand about the battles of chronic illness a little bit more, or for a friend or family member who just wants to support you. And it's also good for pastors and other type of leadership in churches that need to be attuned to what people are struggling with when it comes to chronic illness and chronic pain. And so it's a good resource for all those. There are reflection questions in the back of each chapter, so it can work as a support group or Bible class type material as well. And it is available in paperback, in hardcover, and in Kindle. There are plans, although they're not definitive yet, but there are plans and discussions about an audio book that we hope will be available, maybe even as early as when we have the conference. So just wanted to let you know about that, and I hope that you are sticking around here for the interview with Mandy. And I believe what she has to say and the things that she has been writing can be a blessing to many. All right. Well, thank you and enjoy the interview. Well, I'm excited to welcome back Mandy Farmer and to In the Seams. This is the first time actually we've been able to welcome anyone back, as Mandy, you are our first return guest, so that's kind of exciting for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here again.
Yeah. Well, I know our listeners enjoyed what you shared with us. It was back in November 2024 when we had that conversation. And at that time, we talked mostly, I think, about your book, Soft Hugs for Mommies. Is that, if I say that correctly? Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
a children's book. And then we also talked a lot about some of your other different writings that people could get online and get and receive and all that. And so we'll touch on some of that here in just a moment. I know enough about your story since we talked that certainly it's not been an easy journey since then, to say the least. And so just kind of start and ask if you would like to update our listeners on the journey you have been on since November of 2024.
Sure. Really, I think when we were talking, my husband was either in the midst of his radiation therapy. He had pancreatic cancer, and he was beginning to go downhill. We kind of swapped jobs that year, and he had been my caregiver all that time, and now I was his caregiver. And everything switched. It was funny because it's like I'm always the cold one, and he was warm, and he got very cold, and I was warm for some reason. So it was an odd phenomenon.
Right.
But about not long after I spoke with you, I had to just put everything aside. And this book, Dissonant Chords, Joyful Harmony, it was in editing when I talked with you. And when we finished that up, it was put on the shelf because I had to spend every moment with Michael. He passed away in December of 24.
Okay.
Just before Christmas, just before our anniversary. So I'm doing okay so far, but the tears might come because I never know.
Sure.
These days how that will be. So anyway, so the next year, as is typically true for widows, all kinds of different things that you have to deal with. And I had not been driving for many years. I had kept up my driver's license, but I had not been driving. We had moved to the city, and I didn't like it. And even though he encouraged me to drive, I had not done much until he was just not able to. And so I had to learn to drive. I know how to drive, but the interstates and dealing with all of that. I have neck issues, which is the big reason why I wasn't driving. It's because of merging is very difficult. We moved about 6 months later. Some friends of ours, they were retiring and moving to New Mexico. They had a house there. They have a house here. And they said, how about if we let you rent our house for a few years for a very low rate at their cost, at what their cost is, basically. So it was under $1,000. So, which you can't get anywhere.
Right.
And two of my sons, who were also still struggling, trying to get over COVID, we all moved to this bedroom community in outside of the city. Most of my doctors are here as well. They come out here to see patients, and so I seldom have to go into the city. And so that's kind of what we've been doing, is just learning, to adjust to a new life here without my husband. And he was a minister, and there's not the denomination that we're in. There's not one out here nearby. And so we did some church hopping, which we had never got to do because we always were just assigned to places.
Right.
And so we got to experience a lot of different kinds of worship. which was eye-opening and exciting, really, just to see. But I found pretty quickly that I couldn't deal with the super churches because of the noise, the joyful noise. um, it was just too much for the sensitivity part of our lives that most of us know about. And I just love the old hymns, and so we looked for a church that sang hymns, and we actually ended up back in the church, not the physical church, but the denomination that I grew up in. And so I've kind of made a full circle. We just joined last Sunday. so we're very excited about that.
Wow. Okay. Well, first of all, just appreciate you being open about that. I know it's not easy to talk about, but I do think it would be important for our listeners to know that, because you do speak a lot about your husband in your book and some of the things that you guys experienced together. And
Right.
So, and your new book is called Dissonant Chords, Joyful Harmony, Finding God's Grace in the Pain of Chronic Illness. So we're going to circle back around to that in just a moment, but that is the reason, the occasion for us having this second interview together, is to be able to talk about that. And so I did want to just come back around, though, to some of the other things I mentioned earlier about your book, Soft Hugs for Mommy, and then some of the other websites where people can interact with your writing. Do you keep those up to date still? Do you have any updates on any of the other writing projects?
The Farmer's Place is where I write my farm books, and I just occasionally, put something else new up there once in a while. This month is June is Dairy Month, so I'm focusing on the farm books. Last year, I also published my second farm book, which is called Holly the Holstein's Farm Friends, and she introduces the children to all of the farm animals and what they call their baby, what does the baby say. But it also, it's very interactive. You can even do it where it will grow with your child, because the left side will tell, this is a cow, this is a calf, they say moo, that kind of thing. And then the right side will tell an interesting fact about the cow, and then it asks you a question. So say we're talking about the pigs. It says, pigs are smelly, but they really like to stay clean. But so do you like to get in the dirt, or do you like to stay clean? Do you take a bath? Things like that. And so kind of community service, or things that have to do with, health at home. Okay. Very excited about that little book that came out last year. It's called Farm Friends, Holly the Holstein's Farm Friends.
Holly the Holstein's Farm Friends, and we will link to that, as well as to your previous books and other writings as well. And so excited to hear about that.
The other thing that happened right after Michael passed away, a friend of mine was doing a collaboration, and it was called Chosen, Sacred Journeys with a Faithful God. And that's this one. It just came out at the same time as mine. Oh, and she asked me to write a story in here. And I wrote a story about how God chose me to be my husband's wife. My husband was a widower. His wife and oldest daughter were killed in a car accident.
Oh, wow.
And my pastor's wife literally drugged me to Georgia to meet him. And I went just so that she would quit bothering me about it. And we were married in 4 months. So anyway, I wrote a story in here about how God chose me to walk with him through his grief. So it's in this book, Chosen, Sacred Journeys with a Faithful God.
Okay, that's good to
by
know.
Angie
And
Blake.
yeah, we'll link that as well. And I think Andres got part of the book description here, and it just says whether you're walking through your own difficult season or seeking encouragement for the road ahead, Chosen will remind you that hard things are possible, hope is real, and you are chosen for this journey. So that certainly sounds very edifying, and we will make sure people can find that. Now, you mentioned already as we were reflecting back on kind of the end of 2024 that, and you talked about it on the show, that you were already working on this devotional book,
Right.
this book that became the book which we're talking about today. And we're pleased to be able to tell our audience that it is now available. And so I want to say congratulations to you, Mandy, for that.
Thank you.
That's exciting. And when did it come out?
It came out in April. It was really a God thing. Again, I had, like I said, I had to put it down and just not work on anything. And then after Mike passed, I just, you don't have the wherewithal to do it. And when I would
Mm-hmm.
pull it up and try to write anything, I would just cry, because everything had been about Mike and I together as a team. And, um, and so even though this was about my chronic pain, he had been my caregiver. He had been there and walked with me through the entire thing. So that was, what was in the center of that. And so the gal from the Chosen book, Angie, she said, I know a girl that can get your book formatted for you. And so I talked with her, and she is lightning fast. You would turn something into her, and she, in a day or two, she would be, okay, here it is, check it. You're like, what? Okay. So then I looked for someone to help me launch it, because again, these things, your brain fog, and especially adding grief onto it, is just, out of this world. And so so I found a gal that would help me do the launch.
Sure.
And actually, I had known her for years, and I had just put a note out somewhere in my writing groups, hey, I need someone to help me. And she said, hey, I can do that for you. And she gave me a big discount because I'm a widow. and she and so she understands that you don't have as much money flowing around. And so she helped me do a small launch. And what we're going to do is, that was in like the first week of May, leading up to fibromyalgia day. And so we use that kind of as our goal and plan. But she said, she offered, well, I told her, I think this book needs a workbook with it. So I'm going to work on that this summer. And our plan is for September, which is Pain Awareness Month, is that we're going to release the workbook. And it will be kind of an extension of this. The book has steps, and like the last part of it is you have to practice your scales and arpeggios, which are the practice things that you do when you are a musician. And so that is meditating on the word and meditating on a hymn.
The book is unique. It's one of the things I would want you to point out about it, because it's not. I mean, yes, it's a devotional book, and there's some similar things to other devotional books there. But the way in which you approach the book and the way that you guide your readers is not like anything I'd ever seen before.
Yeah.
And so, could you explain that a little bit? What makes it unique?
Okay. Again, music is kind of my life. It's the thing that has always been what gets me through. I have sung since I was a little girl. out on the farm doing chores, I would be singing while I did my work. And I'd come in for supper and they would say, "Well, thanks for the concert, Mandy," because I had been singing at the top of my lungs, not realizing that anyone was listening to me.
Right.
And so it was always just a part of me. And I've started taking piano lessons when I was 8. And by the time I was in high school, I was doing contests and things like that. So I was playing classical music and I would play for hours, which was good just for like beating on something to get your stress out. But scientifically, they say that music does something in your brain. It gives you cortisol or lowers your cortisol. So it really is a thing that I just came about naturally, but that music helps you through whatever it is you're going through.
Sure.
And so that was my theme. And what I did was just start with, I had each devotion has sections. The first one is my dissonant tone. So I would give just a small little piece of my story, one little issue of it. And then I would have a counterpoint, which is in music, that is like the opposite. It's two melodies that come together, like when you sing "Row, row, row your boat." Okay, so the counterpoint is somebody that might have experienced that particular issue. And so let's tell a little bit about that person. And then I would kind of mesh them together. And this is what we can learn from them, and from what we're going through, this is what we can learn. And then I would give a psalm and a hymn to meditate on, not necessarily sing. Some of us don't sing, but some of us, when you are sick, there's like a frog in your throat or a lump in your throat. And when you try to sing, you just can't. And so I encourage, don't worry about singing it. If you want to listen to it, that's fine, but just really meditate on the lyrics and let that get into your soul, just like you do with Bible verses, where you say, "Hey, what's the meaning here? And what is the meaning for me?" And that kind of thing really came alive for me. A lot of scripture, even. As a chronic illness person, a lot of scriptures came to have a whole different meaning.
Sure.
You know? And so that's kind of how the book is laid out. It's really 5 days, and then Saturday on the weekend, a shorter little meditation. And I encourage that you don't even have to do, it's 2 pages a day, but you don't even have to do that. You do one section, do a psalm, and then the next day do the hymn. However much your brain is able to help you process, that's all you have to do. Yeah. But a little bit every day is going to help.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to point out, I have the book, and it's on Kindle, so I know there's a Kindle version, and then of course there's the softback, or softback, paperback. That's what we would normally call that. Anyway, and so I've been able to enjoy some of it already. I really like the rhythms of it. I'm not a person. I grew up in Churches of Christ, and of course we sing a cappella. So yes, we did lots and lots of singing, but I was not real versed in the musical side of things. And so for me, I just appreciate you making this so approachable. Like, even if I'm not, don't have a big music background, I'm still able to follow what these different parts represent in each of the devotionals. And so it's just, it's been a blessing so far for me to get to read through it. And we're going to certainly make this as available as possible on our show notes and when we share this podcast. with others. And you kind of shared already a little bit about why music is powerful and transformative to you. And you kind of alluded to it, I think already. You said something about um, it makes a physical impact on us. It does something
Yes.
to us that doesn't happen with other forms of engaging our mind or engaging in
Right.
worship. And obviously, it's something that God has given to us to be able to draw near to Him in a different way. I circle back to one other thing you said earlier in the conversation too. You talked about how churches sometimes that everything seems to kind of take this really almost peppy, uh, happy tone that can be completely out of sync
Yeah.
with what people are actually
You're feeling.
going through. I appreciate you bringing that situation up because I think a lot of our listeners have experienced that at times, and almost like they're being forced or they're trying to be forced into, uh, something that they're not feeling, or
Yeah.
that's
I'm not feeling that. Right.
yeah, it
Oh,
becomes kind of it becomes fake then if we try to make ourselves feel a way in which we're not. And what you're doing is you're encouraging people to come before God as they are and what they're going through, and for
right.
God to meet them in that moment. And we need a lot more of that in the church. So I really
We
appreciate
do.
you.
And it's true with grief as well that typically grievers get completely lost. People don't know what to do. They don't know what to say to them. Their whole uh, world has changed because, like, they probably went to, if they went to Sunday school, they went to a couples class, and now here they are, not a couple,
Hmm.
and so they don't feel weird. It was a little different for me because if there was one place where Mike and I were not together, it was at church because he had his ministry and I had my ministry. But so it was a little bit different for me there. But what I was going to get at is that somebody sent me a book on lament, and let me think of the name of it. Oh, I got it right here. Dark Clouds, Deep Mercy by Mark Vrogop. And it's all about studying the Psalms and Lamentations and learning how to lament, and that it's okay to say, God, this is not right. It's not fair. I hate it. I feel this way. I feel that way. You just look at the Psalms. David complained to God all the time.
Hmm.
But what I love about most of his Psalms is that they end up in praise.
Sure.
That, he starts out with, this is a big problem, God. And then he transfers over to, but you have done all these things in the past. And that gives me the hope that I need. And so, therefore, I will praise you. And that's kind of what I wanted to do with this book, is to teach people how to lament their pain and their problems to God. And
Yeah,
it's an area where the church has not done well.
that's correct. Yeah, especially here in the U.S. and Western
Hmm.
society, it seems like we've kind of lost the art of lament and the importance of it.
Yes.
I think in some cultures where suffering is just more such a intrinsic part of everyday life, like in Africa, for example, you'll find that
Hmm.
lament is more natural to them. But we've got to recapture that because people are
Yeah.
hurting and they're not seeing their pain validated, and they're being
Right.
told that to actually say anything that would sound like a complaint or a lament, almost that's wrong. You're not showing enough faith if you do that. And
Exactly. Yes.
so I appreciate you countering
Yes.
that in your book and just in your ministry in general to people. And I want to just talk about another thing just related to your style. And this comes up in your interviews. You've also shared with one of our support groups in Broken and Mended, but also
Hmm.
in the past interview that we've had, and also in your devotional book, from what I've been able to see, you're very open. You're very real about what your struggles are. You're not trying to hide things, and so you talk about some very difficult things, really the losses that kind of come across all of the things with chronic illness and chronic pain.
Right.
The financial stuff. You talked about the relational and church hurt stuff, and that's hard to talk about. But if no one's talking about it, then no one's going to be talking about it. So I just want to know, how does your willingness to share so openly help your readers to connect to you? Or another way to say that, how does your openness play a big role in helping others?
I think that it's because they see that I've been there, done that, is the whole thing, and that they see, hey, she knows what I feel. She's been there, and she knows what I feel, or at least kind of. Right. I know that my situation is not nearly as difficult as others have. And my husband had to teach me to slow down, and that's my thing now, is I have to tell myself, are you sure you can do that? Because you pay for it if you do too much, and that kind of thing. So I think that they see that I am real, and that I just want to come alongside you and sit with you, and not try to tell you you're doing it wrong, or that you have some kind of a spiritual issue. I do touch on some things that say, hey, while you're laying there looking up at the ceiling, it is a good time to say, okay, Lord, are there areas in my life that need to change? Because there may be, and maybe not. But I do touch on that. But just that I am someone that they can talk to. And honestly, I have people just out of the blue ask me, they come on Facebook Messenger or whatever and say, hey, I need prayer. I need someone to talk to, and I'm willing to do that,
Yeah. Yeah, so it's availability that goes along with just the openness and realness that are helping people to be able to connect to you. I think it makes them feel seen or heard, however you want to put that.
Right.
It validates their experiences and makes us all feel a little less lonely. And so just really commend you for that approach, because I think when we're talking about these kinds of things, things like chronic illness and pain and grief, and that trying to not be open about it just ultimately just does more harm. But it doesn't mean it's easy. Right. It's sometimes I know from my own experience, I want to hold back, and God is trying to convict me to say, no, you need to speak about how this has really impacted you and be real about it.
I believe that sometimes that is the why God allows us to go through what we're going through, is so that we can empathize with others that are going through it. It may be for no other reason. It's not punishment. It's not any of the other things that people will tell you. And it's not that you're not spiritual.
Right.
Most times, I think it's just that I had Dr. Michelle Bankston. She writes a lot of books on these kinds of subjects. She's a psychiatrist, and she said that her publisher asked her to write about pain, and she was like, I don't know if I really want to do that, because that means I have to go through it, to be able to empathize and to write something to people. She did do it, and she did go through more pain. But I think that's more the reason that a God allows it, because we live in a fallen world, and everyone has pain, and everyone has issues. So we're right here with you. We're the counterpoint for other people.
Good
You
point.
know,
Yeah.
we're the counterpoint for people that aren't reading the Bible. You're the Bible that people read. They want to know,
Mm-hmm.
hey, how how do you do that? What's different about you that um, you are able to get through this? Because it's not easy.
Right. That's right.
You know.
Well, and I'm sure that this attitude or mindset has been cultivated in throughout this entire ordeal for you. But as we talked about at the beginning of our conversation today, over the last year and a half, things have been been very different for you, and unfortunately, it's a sometimes learning new perspectives, as you've talked about already, are very painful. And I know you've been through some of that. How has your perspective changed over this last year and a half in dealing with your grief and this new situation that you find yourself in?
One thing that I have found is that the principles are the same no matter what you're going through, because this book, my writing has been preaching to me. As I've been working on things, as I'm working on the new notebook, I keep hearing the things that I wrote myself. It's like, oh, Mandy, remember you said this? Okay, yes. um, so, so my perspective has not changed a whole lot, but it has been confirmed that the way that I face life and deal with life,
Mm-hmm.
it works.
Yeah, it's been tested then, huh?
It's been tested, and it's been
Yeah.
tested in a different field now,
Right.
because it was some. My husband was 9 years older than me, but you know what? We never thought about the fact that the idea that he could be gone and I would be um, kind of younger widow. you
Mm-hmm.
know, we were still planning. Hey, we've got lots of life left
Right.
together. He's the youngest in his family. His sister and brother, who are 7 and 10 years older than him, are still living. His
No.
sisters can run circles around people,
Yeah.
you know. But so you think, hey, we got lots of time. But that would be the perspective of, I wish I could go back and talk. I want to talk to people that aren't going through this yet, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and say, here's some things to think about. Here's why you need to be doing these things for your health. This is why you need to be thinking about these things when you marry someone, and as you develop a relationship with in your marriage, um, that God still has to be number one in your life.
You're right. Right.
And what's the thing that couples say about each other? How would I live without you? I can't live without you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can. You can. But your eyes have to be on God. And if you put God first while you still have your mate, then when he's gone, you will still have God.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying that it's going to be a tons easier, but you're not scrambling to try to figure out how you're going to live.
Hmm.
It For me, it I've had such a solace in God through my grief. It does not mean that I don't cry myself to sleep, or that I don't miss him, and that things don't remind me out of the blue about him. But God is there holding me.
Yeah.
And I think I want to write a book about um, being the bride of Christ, maybe.
Well,
If that is your whole focus point, and that your spouse is just your person that you're doing it with,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
um,
that's really good. I mean, it's very good wisdom. And I can even think about when I was dating before I met my wife, and I was
mhm,
always talking about try to don't try to put someone on a pedestal and make them the center of your life. Find someone that's going alongside of you toward God,
right,
and like you
yeah,
said, you're doing it together with them. And so
right,
uh, now that's interesting. You kind of mentioned the idea that maybe this would be something that could lead to another book. Your experience with grief, but also the focus on being the bride of Christ. So, is that something you're planning to work on next, or do you already have
oh,
some
I
other
have
things
all
in the
kinds of
works?
notes when things come up.
Yeah.
And I one thing that um, on my Facebook and on my Substack, I have been real open about my grief. And somewhere along the line, because I always would chat, I would usually go on Facebook after my devotions in the morning, was usually when I would get on. And I started saying, this morning, blah, blah, this is how I'm feeling, whatever. This is what God told me in my studies this morning. And I thought, hey, wait a minute. I'm going to change the spelling. And so I've put this morning, Mourning.
Hmm.
And I have many people following. Many people are like, I'm glad you do this. It's helping me. I have other people that say, that helps me know how to pray for you. And it makes me aware that grief is something that just doesn't go away after 1 year. And so a friend of mine, Angie, the girl that did the Chosen book,
Mm-hmm.
she said you need, your next devotion should be called This Morning. And so lots of thoughts there, and all of that is recorded on Facebook and Substack, so
Right.
might be able
Right.
to pull it together.
Well, that sounds like a promising project. I actually was just looking up your page there. Um, Okay, so do you have a page? I'm okay. This is just your personal page on Facebook. I didn't know if you had a separate page for
I
your
don't have a
writing.
separate page.
Okay.
I had to try to, it's out there. It's called what is it called? That's how much I use it. It's
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
fibromyalgia. Um, is it for real? Something like that.
Oh, okay.
Fibromyalgia. What is it for real? Um, One thing is that I have way more than fibromyalgia. That was just my first diagnosis, and
Mm-hmm.
so I have multiple things added to that. Um, and so it kind of got where it was not really doing exactly what I wanted it to. I was trying to, but way back when I first started, I was again trying to reach like friends of paying people, trying to reach everyone else. Not saying, hey, this is how I deal with it, but okay, you want to know about fibro? I'll tell you about fibro, that kind of a thing. So that's not really the best place to go. Right now, I focus on the Substack, which is mandyfarmer.com. And if you go there, there's a notes area. That's where I put my daily thoughts. And on the front page of the website, it always offers soft hugs. And I use the acronym soft hugs and give helpful tools. So, like, I give a scripture And Oasis is like, a lot of times I will say, well, we can't always go places because of our illness. So here's a beautiful place in the world, video that you can watch or listen to or whatever. F is usually something funny. T is sometimes like it's another tip or travel, traveling virtually because you can't travel. Hugs is usually, H is a health tip. U, it will be the updates on my books. G is good reads. So whatever I'm reading, and that is helpful. And the S is a song. And I'm right now, that happens about once a month. So,
Okay.
so
Yeah, I'm on your Substack page right now. It does look really good, and lots of different. And I see this morning, like you said, MOURNING here. So it looks like you can find out mostly about all the things that you've written and are working on there. So that's wonderful.
Because I have a book page too. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll link that for our listeners. Is there anything else you want to share about your book or any other writings or projects that we haven't talked about?
I would say, like, if you're looking for me, especially if you're looking in bookstores or Amazon, is to look for Mandy Farmer, DAWSON. That's my, this is my pseudonym. I found that there was another Mandy Farmer out there, a couple of them actually, and even with close types of writing. And so I put in my maiden name because especially at the beginning when I was writing, when I'm doing farm books, those are the people that know me would know my maiden name. So, so there's other things out there. If you look for Mandy Farmer, you're going to get other things. You're going to get a book about dinosaurs. That's not mine. And I'm trying my best to get that sorted out. But anyway, so Mandy Farmer is what to look for. And I just started when I recreated my logo, and I used the D in there also as MDF. And I went to a widows conference, and I gave a gal my card because we wanted to get together about something about widows. And she said, "Oh, is your initials MDF?" And I said, "Well, my pseudonym initials are MDF." And she said, "Well, that is a type of wood that the wood is broken down and then put back together to make a stronger type of wood."
Huh.
And I had just arbitrarily put the MDF there. And here I thought that is perfect for broken people that God has put together for a better work and to make us stronger.
Yeah, that is perfect. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So, well, Mandy, we're excited about your new book, and we hope that our listeners will get it. And I don't remember if you mentioned that it was each round of devotionals is a set of 5. Like it's a Monday through Friday devotional book. Isn't that correct?
Right. It has a weekend assignment. But
okay, and so it's 25 total devotionals in the book. Was that right?
30.
Oh, 30. Oh, okay. 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Okay. Well, good.
Yeah, the final week is actually a study of hymn writers.
Oh, okay.
And what I have learned is that many, many of our hymn writers are experienced terrible trials.
That's true.
And that's what that music came out of.
Yeah, that's true.
And I might, down the road, I might do something with more of those because there's a bunch of them. I had a hard time picking.
Well, thank you again, Mandy, for joining us and returning to In the Seams.
Sure,
it's been great to have you.
Glad to.
Yeah. And just want to say to our listeners, we thank you also for joining us here on In the Seams. Always encourage people, along with the show notes that you'll find the different links, certainly go and check out brokenandmended.org and some of the resources that we have there. whether we're talking about books or support groups or our blog or this podcast, which you've already found since you're listening to it. But we also have links to our social media communities there as well. And certainly for people who are dealing with pain every day and the discouragement that often brings, we want to try in any way we can to let you know that you're not alone. I want to help you stay connected to Jesus and to one another. And so until next time, we hope that you will be drawn closer in your walk with God and also in your relationship with those around you.